Namaste, Jai Guruji, Om Sai Ram. We are now going to read chapter 14 of the Sai Satcharitra. Before we begin, let us sit for a few moments, invite God's grace to bless us with focus, concentration, so that we may best absorb these messages. Chapter 14. In the last chapter, we described how Baba's word and grace cured many incurable diseases. Now we shall describe how Baba blessed Mr. Ratanji Wadia and gave him an issue. The life of this saint is naturally sweet. His various doings, eating, walking, and his natural sayings are also sweet. His life is bliss incarnate. Sai gave bliss to his devotees as a means of remembrance. He gave them various stories of duty and action which ultimately led them to true religion. His object may be that people should live happily in this world, but they should ever be cautious and achieve the object of their actual life, which is self-realization. We get a human body as a result of merits in past births, and it is worthwhile that we, with its aid, should attain devotion and liberation in this life. So we should never be lazy, but always be on the alert to gain our goal of life. If you hear the Leelas of Sai daily, you will also see him. Day and night, you will remember him in your mind. When you assimilate Sai in this way, your mind will lose its fickleness, and if you go on in this matter, it will finally be merged in pure consciousness. Ratanji of Nanded. Now, let us come to the main story of this chapter. In Nanded, in the Nizam state, where lived a Parsi milk contractor and trader by name of Ratanji Shapurji Wadia. He had amassed a large amount of money and acquired fields and lands. He had cattle, horses, conveyance, and was very prosperous. In all outward appearances, he looked very happy and contented, but inwardly he was not so. Providential dispensation is such that no one in the world is completely happy, and Ratanji was no exception to that. He was liberal and charitable, gave food and clothing to the poor, and helped in various ways. People took him to be a good and happy man, but Ratanji thought himself miserable, as he had no issue, male or female, for a long time. Just as Kirtan without love or devotion, song without rhythmical accompaniments, Brahmin without a sacred thread, proficiency in the arts without common sense, pilgrimage without repentance, and ornamentation without a necklace are futile and useless, so is a householder without an issue. Ratanji always brooded on this matter and said in his mind, "Would God ever be pleased to grant me a son?" He thus looked morose and did not relish his food. Day and night he was enveloped in anxiety as to whether he would ever be blessed with a son. He had a great regard for Das Ganu Maharaj. He saw him and opened his heart before him. Das Ganu advised him to go to Shirdi, take Baba's darshan, fall at his feet and seek his blessings and pray for an issue. Ratanji liked the idea and decided to go to Shirdi. After some days he went to Shirdi, took Baba's darshan and fell at his feet. Then opening a basket, he took out a beautiful garland of flowers and placed it around Baba's neck and offered him a basket of fruits. With reverence, he then sat near Baba and prayed to him, saying, "Many persons who find themselves in difficult situations come to you, and you relieve them immediately. Hearing this, I have anxiously sought your feet. Please do not disappoint me." Sai Baba then asked him for dakshina of 5 rupees, which Ratanji intended to give, but added that he had already received 10,14,0 rupees 314 from him, and that he should pay the balance only. Hearing this, Ratanji was rather puzzled. He could not make out as to what Baba meant. That was the first time he thought that he had come to Shirdi, and how was it that Baba said that he had earlier got 315 from him? He could not solve the riddle, but he sat at Baba's feet and gave the balance of the dakshina asked for. Explained to Baba fully as to why he came and sought his help, and prayed that Baba should bless him with a son. Baba was moved and told him not to worry, and thence onward his bad days had ended. He then gave him udi, placed his hand on his head, and blessed him, saying Allah would satisfy his heart's desire. Then, after taking Baba's leave, Ratanji returned to Nanded and told Das Ganu everything that took place at Shirdi. He said that everything went on well there. He got Baba's darshan and blessing with prasad, but there was one thing which he couldn't understand. Baba said to him that he had gotten 314 before. Please explain what Baba meant by this remark. He said to Das Ganu, I've never been to Shirdi before. How could I give him the sum to which Baba referred? To Das Ganu too, this was a puzzle. He thought much over it for a long time. Sometime after, it struck him that Ratanji had received some days ago a Mohammedan saint by the name of Moli Sahib in his house and had spent some money for his reception. This Moli Sahib was a well-known saint in Nanded and worked as a porter. When Ratanji decided to go to Shirdi, this Moli Sahib turned up at Ratanji's house. Ratanji knew him and loved him, so he gave a small party in his honor. Das Ganu got from Ratanji a memo of expenses for that reception. Everybody was wonderstruck to see the expenses amounted to exactly 314 zeros, nothing more, nothing less. They all came to know that Baba was omniscient, that though he lived in Shirdi, he knew what happened outside, far away from Shirdi. In fact, he knew the past, present, and future and could identify himself with anybody. In this particular instance, how could he know that the reception given to Moli Sahib and the amount spent therefore, unless he could himself identify and be with him? Ratanji was satisfied with this explanation, and his faith in Baba was confirmed and increased. In due time, he was blessed with a son, and his joy knew no bounds. It is said that he had in all a dozen issues, out of which only 4 survived. In a footnote towards the end of the chapter, it is stated that Baba told Rao Bahadur Hari Vinayak Sathe after the death of his first wife to remarry and that he would get a son. Sathe married second time. First 2 issues by the wife were daughters and he therefore felt very despondent, but the third issue was a son. Baba's word therefore did come true. Dakshina. Now we shall close this chapter with a few points about Dakshina. It is a well-known fact that Baba always asked for Dakshina from people who went to see him. Somebody may ask, if Baba was a fakir and perfectly non-attached, why should he ask for Dakshina and care for money? He shall consider this question broadly now. First, for a time, Baba didn't take anything. His store burnt matches and filled pockets with them. He never asked anybody for anything, whether he was a devotee or otherwise. If anybody placed a paisa or 2 before him, he purchased oil or tobacco. He was fond of tobacco. He always smoked a bidi or chillum. Then some persons thought that they should not go to saints empty-handed and therefore placed some copper coins before Baba. If a paisa was placed before him, he used to pocket it. If it was 2 paise coin, it was returned immediately. Then after Baba's fame had spread far and wide, people began to flock in numbers and Baba began to ask Dakshina from them. It is said in the Shruti that puja of the gods is not complete unless a gold coin is offered. If a coin was necessary in the puja of the gods, why should it not be in the puja of the saints? Ultimately, the Shastras laid it down. When one goes to see God, king, saint or guru, he should not go empty-handed. He should offer something, preferably money. In this connection, we may notice the precepts recommended in the Upanishads. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that the Lord Prajapati advised the gods, men and demons by one letter, Da. Gods understood this letter that they should practice Dhamma, i.e. self-control. Men thought or understood they should practice Dan, which is charity. Demons understood that they should practice Daya, which is compassion. To men, charity or giving was recommended. The teacher in the Taittiriya Upanishad exhorts his pupils to practice charity and other virtues. Regarding charity, he says, give with faith, or even without it. Give with magnanimity, liberally. Give with modesty, awe, and sympathy. In order to teach devotees the lessons of charity and to remove their attachment for money, and thus purify their minds, Baba extracted darshana from them. But there was this peculiarity, as Baba said that he had to give back 100 times more than what he received. There are many instances in which this happened. To quote an instance, Mr. Ganpatrao Bodas, the famous actor, says this in his Marathi autobiography that on Baba's pressing him, often for dakshina, he emptied his money bag before him. The result of this was, as Mr. Bodas says, that in later life he never lacked for money and it came to him abundantly. There are also secondary meanings of dakshina. In many cases in which Baba did not want any amount, to quote two instances, Baba asked rupees 16 from dakshina as dakshina from Professor G.G. Narke, who replied that he did not have any money. Then Baba said, I know you have no money, but you are reading the Yoga Vashisht. Give me dakshina from that. Giving dakshina in this case meant deriving lessons from the book, lodging them in the heart, where Baba resides. 2. In the second case, Baba asked a certain lady, Mrs. R.A. Tarakad, to give rupees 6 as dakshina. The lady felt pained as she had nothing to give. Then her husband explained to her that Baba wanted 6 inner enemies, which are lust, anger, avarice, etc., to be surrendered to him. Baba agreed with this explanation. It is to be noted that Baba collected a lot of money by dakshina. He would distribute the whole amount the same day, and the next morning he would become a poor fakir as usual. When Baba took his Mahasamadhi, even after receiving thousands of rupees as dakshina for about 10 years, he only had a few rupees in his possession. In short, Baba's main object in taking dakshina from his devotees was to teach them the lessons of renunciation and purification. Postscript. Mr. B.V. Dev of Thana, retired Mamlatdar and a great devotee of Baba, had written an article on the subject in Sri Sai Leela magazine, volume 2, pages 6 to 26, in which he says the following. Baba did not ask for dakshina at all, or from all. If some gave dakshina unasked, he would sometimes accept it and other times refuse it. He asked it of only certain devotees. He never demanded it from those devotees who thought in their minds that Baba should ask for it, and then they will pay it. If anybody offered it against his wish, he never touched it, and if he kept it there, he would ask him to take it away. He asked for small or big amounts from devotees according to their wish, devotion, and convenience. He asked it even of women and children. He never asked of all the rich for it, nor of all the poor. Baba never got angry with those of whom he asked for dakshina and who would not give it. If any dakshina was sent through some friend who forgot to hand over to Baba, he reminded him of the same and made him pay it. On some occasions, Baba used to return the sum from the amount tendered as dakshina and ask the donor to guard it or keep it in his shrine for worship. The procedure benefited the donor or devotee immensely. If anybody offered more than he originally intended to give, he returned the extra amount. Sometimes he asked of some more dakshina than what they originally intended to give, and if they had no money, asked them to beg or borrow from others. Of some, he demanded dakshina 3 or 4 times a day. Out of the amount collected as dakshina, Baba spent very little for his own, which is for buying children and fuel for the dhuni, and all the rest he distributed in charity, as varying proportions to various people. All the paraphernalia of the Shirdi Sansthan was brought by rich devotees at the insistence and suggestion of Radha Krishna Mai. Baba always used to get wild and scolded those who bought costly and rich articles. He said to Nana Sahib Chandorkar that all his property consisted only of 1 codpiece, 1 stray piece of cloth, 1 kafni, 1 tin pot, and that all the people troubled him with bringing all these unnecessary expensive articles. Women and wealth are 2 main obstacles in the way of our parmarth, and Baba had provided in Shirdi 2 institutions, which is Dakshina and Radha Krishna Mai, for whenever they came to him, he demanded Dakshina from them and asked them to go to school, which was Radha Krishna Mai's house. If they stood these 2 tests well, if they showed they were free from attachment for women and wealth, their progress in spirituality was rapid and assured by Baba's grace and blessings. Mr. Dev has also quoted passages from the Gita and Upanishads and shown that charity given in a holy place or to a holy personage conduces to the donor's welfare. What is more holy than Shirdi and its presiding deity, Sai Baba? Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all. With that, we come to an end of this chapter. Let us take a few moments to absorb the message of this chapter, the many messages in here, and then we will close this session. Jai Guruji, Om Sai Ram. Thank you.